From deep in the Burbank Media District, it's time for another edition of myBurbank Talks. This podcast is presented by the staff of myBurbank. Now, let's see what's on today's agenda as we join our program.
Hey everybody, Craig Sherwood here with you, and we're doing an issue of our myBurbank Talks issues today. And we're going to be talking with head softball coach Doug Nicol of Burroughs High School, who's going to talk to us about some of the situations he's having with Title IX in this field, with both not only with him, but also Burbank High too. So we are going to talk a little Doug. Doug, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. And of course, as always, we have the infamous Ross Benson with us. Where's our Ross? There we go.
Guess it's time for me to wake up, put my glasses on, got to make sure my false teeth are in. Let's hit the road. Doug, how are you?
It's great to see you again.
I love that color red on you.
Thank you. I had to represent little Burroughs Bears softball today.
There you go. Boy, you've been in the sports world a couple of weeks now, haven't you?
Yes, just a little bit. I've been around Burbank and the sports community for a long time.
Well, in the community, how many years you been here?
I was born in Burbank.
Yeah, I told you now, see, you can tell us how old you are.
I was born at, I don't want to tell you how old I am. I will tell you, though, that I was born in Burbank Community Hospital, and that's no longer there. So
BCH, baby. Remember BCH?
That's a long time.
We have a story about that on our other show.
And I'm a Roosevelt Rough Rider, a Luther Burbank Yellow Jacket, and a Burroughs Indian.
A Burroughs what?
Oh, sorry, Burroughs Bear.
Oh, Bear.
I forgot.
I have no idea. Yeah, all the names they could have named a school. Bears. I mean, it has nothing to do with Burbank. Except
we have Bears now.
We have Bears in the Hill, but one says get the Bears out of Burbank.
But you know what? We didn't have Bears before they called Burroughs Bears. So I'm going to blame it on those people that decided to call Burroughs Bears.
They hear Bears and they just keep flocking to Burbank now.
At least we have something that we can now relate to, right? So that's good.
Okay, let's a little background on Doug Nicol. He's the head softball coach at Burroughs. He's been there for a couple of times. He was there from 2010 through 2016, and then came back in 2019 to present. He's won 6 league titles there, and been to CIF semifinals 3 different times, and once he went to the state playoffs, which is very prestigious. So he's been around for a while. And like I say, he's been in Burbank for a long time. He's lived his whole life. He's coached, I think, as a coach in all sports, in youth and high school, probably 40 plus years, right?
I started in 1982, my senior year of high school.
Now you just told everybody how old you were.
So you can figure it out at St. Finbar, working with Mike Graceffo. I was the girls' coach. He was the boys' coach. So it was fun. That's where I first started.
Just a quick question then. Was he the same height he is now?
Yeah, he is. I think he's actually shrunk a little bit. But, yes, he was about the same height.
Mike knows we'll tease him about that.
We love Mike. He's a good friend.
We do love Mike.
Absolutely.
And you know what? A couple weeks ago, he said, thanks for the shout-out. So, Mike, you owe us now.
Absolutely does.
And you can see his picture of Bob's.
Absolutely. Yeah, go to Bob's. He's with Michael Jordan on the wall.
He's there.
So a little background here. This is about Title IX. And Title IX is not just, boys and girls. Boys and girls have to have the same things. It's about equity. And equity meaning anybody has the rights to have the same thing. Whether you're a boy, transgender, whatever it is, you have that right because you're a person. So every person should have equal access and equal things. So it's just not, everybody says Title IX and it's about women's sports. Well, it's not really about women's sports. It's about, all people being equal. But, this really does apply to women's sports compared to, men's sports. So a little background in 1972, Congress passed what is now known as Title IX, which prohibits sex-based discrimination in any school or any education program that receives funding from the federal government. Basically, it means that everyone needs to have the same foundation advantages, which means that if something is provided for one class of students, in this case boys, then the same opportunities must also be given to girls. So, basically, they had a meeting back in August of 2022 with John Burroughs, who's now the interim superintendent, who said that a parent had emailed him and expressed, several concerns about the softball program during the 21-22 school year. The concerns that were brought forward were treated as formal Title IX complaint. Therefore, outside legal counsel examined the merits of the concerns brought forward. And the coaches, the district, all met back on August 22nd. And so far, we're close now a year later, and actually not much has changed. So, Doug, why don't you tell us, let's start off with just the inequity that between the two programs. What is the main thing that's the biggest problem?
Well, so when Title IX first came out, it was really geared towards women's rights. It was really something that was focused on women getting equal opportunity, and it really provided opportunities for women that they didn't have previously to Title IX. And so as we were moving through, when they rebuilt the school years ago, I want to say 2000, you probably have better.
You're right around there,
2000,
probably.
when they rebuilt the school, unfortunately, the people that were in charge at that time decided that it would be more important to build 2 gyms instead of a softball field in 1 gym. And that's really where the problem came up, is that whoever was in charge at that time did not realize that they were not in compliance with Title IX. And so it really started then.
Well, I think it actually, in all honesty, now, I've been a baseball coach. I was a high school coach for 40 years.
Right.
And from 96 to 2000, I was at Burroughs. And I was coaching with somebody who's now an athletic director. And I remember we would talk about, girls have to go to Olive, and you always say, "Shh, don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. Don't bring it up." So it's something that they have known about way before the school construction, and it's been on their minds ever since. For a long time. They've known about this. This is not. They've kind of hoped it would just go away. Which I'm wondering if right now, having a meeting a year ago, are they hoping right now it goes away again?
Well, the problem is that they've always had parents every year that I've been around have always complained, but it's always kind of been a complaint, and it really hasn't gone anywhere. At this meeting that we were at back at the time, we were told that this parent was actually taking it farther, and that lawyers and other people had kind of talked about it and told the powers that be in Burbank Unified that this is something that needs to be fixed.
You got a problem here.
Yeah, you got a problem, and this parent, who I don't know, it wasn't a Burroughs parent, but this parent was going to push the issue a little bit farther. And so I think that there's going to come a time where there's going to have to be softball fields in Burbank for both high schools. That's going to be at some point. And it's going to, because technically we are not in compliance with Title IX. Technically we're not.
Right.
The school district isn't. They've done a lot of things in the last few months to really step up to the plate, which I want to mention that they have done a lot, and we'll talk about that soon. But the end result is, it doesn't matter if we don't have the same things that the boys baseball program does. So the way they look at it is, you have a like program, boys baseball, and girls softball are like programs.
Right.
But this isn't my issue, and I've been a champion for women's sports for years. That's all I've coached. And so I've been saying this for years, and we're finally getting the attention.
Well, I think what happened was, this really came to fruition when Burbank High made the playoffs, and they actually got a couple games deep into it, and they were to host a playoff game, and the city said, "No, you can't do that. That field's being used for a minor practice or something. Right. You got to change your location." Now, Burbank High boosters, softball boosters, actually paid for a scoreboard that went in at McCambridge. The city didn't pay for it. The district didn't pay for it. So now they're being told that the field where they have all their equipment, the field where they have their scoreboard, is going to be rented out to a youth baseball team instead of letting the girls softball team use it. Then had to go across town to probably not a very good facility. And of course, then 2 years, was it 2 years or the year later,
last year,
that same thing happened to you, where you started getting farther down the playoff run, and you weren't able to use Olive anymore.
Right. We weren't able to use Olive because we didn't have a fence at Olive. And the CIF rules say you get to the semifinals or deeper,
True.
that you have to have a fence. And so we didn't have that. But I do want to mention too, is that the Park and Rec has really stepped up to the plate the last few years since Diego has come into charge. is the head of Park and Rec for the city of Burbank. So they've really bent over
No, he's
backwards.
not the head of.
No,
he's not the head of Park
He's
and
a
Rec.
deputy, one of the
Yeah,
deputies.
Yeah.
he's been
Yeah.
great. He's been great, and he helps us every
Right,
step of the way. So
and a
they
city
take-
agreement. It's a reciprocal agreement
right,
where
it's a shared use agreement.
right, where the school district uses some city facilities, and the city uses some school
Right.
like the tracks at the high schools, things like that.
So this year there was a chance that the same thing might happen. We were when we went to the semifinals, we didn't get a home game, but if we got a home game, the city had already made arrangements to get us on that field, and there was not going to be an issue. So they stepped up and they did take care of that. But the problem
But
is,
why should you worry about that? Why should that be a concern of yours? Compared to baseball, which just says, okay, well, host. In fact, let's make it a night game. Let's make it a whatever time. They have the freedom. You have no freedom whatsoever on that.
You're 100% correct. And you asked me the other time some of the differences, some of the things that they get. So, and this is what I've said this to everybody that's involved. I've said this to all the powers that be. And we went to a board meeting, I want to say in March around that time. And so, like, because we don't have our own field, we can't have a snack bar there. Okay, we can set up a little table and sell a few things.
And that's compared to the two. Again,
Correct.
I coached at Burbank High
That's
baseball
snack bar.
from 2010 to 2013, and as a head coach at Burroughs from 2014 to 2020. So I have experience at both schools, and both schools have a built-in snack bar with refrigerators and everything else, and all locked up there. And parents come in and manage, which is a great makes up to $10,000 a year in profit for the program.
Exactly. So we don't have the ability to have a snack bar. We don't have the ability to have tournaments for the last, forever. We haven't had it. Even though this year they said that if we want, they're going to block out time for us to have a tournament. So that's some of the things that they're finally starting to do. But still, at the end of the day, your kids have to walk to the field. They have to get out earlier to get to the field. There's a lot of things. We don't have the softball programs in the city are the only two programs, Burbank High and Burroughs, that they don't have any revenue streams to bring in. There's none. We're done at the fields at 5 and we're done. Whereas other programs, they can be on their field at 8, 9. You know what it's like, Craig, when you're the baseball coach. You could have summer leagues and you can
schedule a practice whenever you want to have a practice. You do it in the morning, the
stuff.
afternoon, you want to do it in the evening, you turn the lights on. It's not even an issue. It's your field to use
Exactly.
whenever you want to use it.
Exactly. And so Pasadena High School actually had this situation come up years ago, and they had to actually acquire some land across the street from the school right there. And so it's almost connected to the campus, and they built a brand new softball field. And so these are the things that...
Well, let's talk about a couple of things when you have to go off campus.
Okay.
I mean, number one, you have no locker room. When you go to Olive, you have no locker room access. So, I coached at Crespi for like 25 years, and we were at Valley College playing games or Balboa Park practicing.
Right.
And our kids are out there changing in the parking lot.
Right.
And it's not a good situation. You have, 15 to 18-year-old kids in the parking lot changing in a public area, and they had no choice, And so you have no locker room access, and you have no access to your school administrators, the nurse, athletic trainers, because they're all at school, and you have limited storage area also for pitching machines, and any training tools. So not only, and let's talk about the big thing, security. We've had an armed robber one time down at I think Reese and Olive,
Right.
who ran up Reese, and the police had him cordoned off in the backyard. And while your girls were walking to practice right through that entire area,
Correct.
that's not a good situation right there, and you had no way of knowing it was going on.
Right. Correct. You're 100% correct. We went into the gym. We went into a lockdown situation. And, I will say, we have a new principal at Burroughs, Kenny Newt, and they have given us locker room space. He's going to do a great job. But at the end of the day, not having that field on campus creates all these situations. So the Park and Rec in the last 3 or 4 months has totally stepped up. The Burbank Unified School District has totally stepped up in the last few weeks.
Well, stepping up is these are all Band-Aids.
Right. And so that you just have to figure out what is important and what you want to do. So they built this brand new what am I looking for? Bullpens. So we have brand new bullpens. I don't know if you've seen it at Olive. Beautiful. Brand new bullpens. We have they got us a brand new storage unit. So they have stepped up. I don't want to sit here. We're trying to be partners with them. But your point is correct, is that in regards to Title IX, it's never, ever, as much as they do, it's never going to be equal until we have an on-campus facility. And That's not bagging on anyone. That's not putting. That's just being honest.
Right.
But at Burroughs, where would you put a softball field?
It just my feeling, and I know this would be a long time away, but my feeling is that there's people that get paid to figure this stuff out, and there would be a person that would have to come and figure it out. But there is a way. It's been measured to do it on the corner of Parish, where the parking lot is.
Right.
You would have to get rid of the bungalows that are currently there on that area. We've done the measurements. The only issue is it would be about 190 to Straightaway Center, where there's a house out there,
Huh?
and you'd have to put a
You
big,
put a bigger fence.
bigger
I mean,
fence. You just put a big fence
it
on
gives the field some
character.
character.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm just curious because I
There is a
paid
way.
attention to some of the school board meetings, and I hear because of security issues that they've experienced, they're trying to eliminate kids walking off campus to those bungalows.
Correct.
So those bungalows are going to be sitting there doing nothing
Correct.
down the road.
Correct.
So that
So-
would, if they got rid of them,
and don't worry about parking. Well, you know what? As they saw that at Burbank High, was they put a three-story parking structure in, and then put the tennis courts on top, so they could easily build a parking structure where the tennis courts are now. Put the tennis courts on top, like at Burbank High, and have probably even additional parking.
Right. So my belief has always been where there's a will, there's a way. You just have to be creative. There's people that get paid money to do this, architects that they're a lot smarter than me, and they can figure it out. And so, that's the dream. The dream is to have a softball field on campus for our young ladies, and it really just is a security issue. So they're not off campus. I actually like our field at Olive. It's a great field for us. It's got great stands, but it doesn't solve the issue.
But here's the problem. Okay,
Security.
you have a game. Who puts the fence up?
We do.
Yeah, nobody else puts it up for you. You got to do it yourself.
Right. So Burbank Unified just approved a fence for us, so we're gonna have our own fence, but we'll be the ones putting it up there all the time.
And how hard is it to put up? How long does it take to put up?
45 minutes.
45 minutes. So
Yeah,
now you have
45
to get kids out of school an extra 45 minutes early to go put a fence up. And then after the
Coaches.
game, especially, and here's the thing, we both know as coaches, you lose a 1-0 game, or you lose a game in the bottom of the seventh or top, seventh inning or whatever, you're devastated.
Right.
And now, okay, kids, guess what? Now we're going to go out and move a fence for 45 minutes.
Exactly.
I mean, that's by itself not a good formula.
Yeah, it's definitely not the greatest situation. It's not ideal. We're happy to have the fence, but you're right. There's issues with that come into it.
so, and I'm just curious, Providence, do they play at Olive Rec too? Are they using
Yes.
the same field?
Yeah, they don't use the same field. We have Olive Rec Park field number 3, and they have field number 1.
Oh,
We play diagonally from each other.
Number one used to be a baseball field until the city said, oh, you don't need baseball fields in the city anymore.
right.
Like
right.
Burroughs used to play their home games there back in the day.
So,
When I was there.
do the same thing with Providence? Do they put a fence up?
Yes, they do. And their parents, that's what we just got approved for this fence 2 weeks ago. And so we're figuring out, and Burbank Unified paid for the whole thing, but we're gonna have to figure out who does it and how. We don't have the logistics yet of how we put it up. Providence has 5 parents do it. So you got
Yeah,
5
they bought it.
dads.
They had it all season, right? And
No, they got it the last 4 weeks. We shared
but
with
they
them.
let you use it, right?
So
At no cost.
Yeah, they were like, no problem.
Yeah.
You can use it. Unfortunately, we only had one home game the last 4 weeks. That was separate from when they were playing, and so we couldn't. I felt it was that they deserved to have it since they
Oh,
bought it.
they paid for
Yeah,
it.
they paid for it, so you buy it. So that's why this year, they came through and they said we could have the fence on our own.
But that's a step. But
Yeah.
and they built some bullpens. That's
There's been
nice
some
too.
great,
But
great steps.
it's still, those are just cosmetic things. It's still not solving the problem of getting your kids to walk over there, or security, or the fact that like I say, snack stands alone are a huge money maker.
Right.
And so are and tournaments and things, and the fact that you can use the field whenever you want to use the field. Right now, I think you have to be out the field by 5:00 every day. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
We got it pushed back to 5:30 now, but
Well,
yeah,
still,
yeah, your point is correct. But our issue is also with other sports at Burroughs. To be honest with you, the girls and the boys basketball programs, they have summer leagues all summer.
Oh, it's
So
a
they
huge
have
money
teams.
maker.
It's a huge money maker. Baseball, they have their fall leagues, but volleyball has camps and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's just so many revenue streams if you have an on-campus facility that you don't have if you're off campus. It's just the way it is.
And I think when you have a camp right now, you just had a very successful camp,
Great camp.
but don't you have to pay a percentage of that money
Yeah.
to Burbank Park and Rec?
Yeah. and they do, and they do some of the work, and they're partners with us. But you're right, we have to give them
Yeah,
some
they
money.
want a piece of the pie.
Yeah, and as they should, I believe. I mean, they're doing things for us. They're handling the signups, and they're doing that kind of stuff. They've been a really good partner the last few years. It's been great, and so we're trying to partner with them. But at the end of the day, what I tell everybody is that the city of Burbank Park and Rec, they have their own mission. They have their own things that they have to
Right.
do. Even though we have a shared use agreement, their focus is on their own programs, as it should be. And so they do everything they can to help us, but it's just not ideal that they should have to do that. It hurt.
Well,
pushes their
I think
resources.
one of their shortcomings, in all honesty, is the fact that we both experienced when it rains. It rains on a Sunday, and all of a sudden Monday we need to practice. And when I was at Burroughs or at Burbank, we'd go out and we'd work on the field ourselves and get it practice. We could practice that day. Where at Burbank, just calls you and says can't use the fields today,
Right.
and they're not really in a hurry to get the fields ready for you. So you might be down 2 or 3 days sometimes. Where baseball's playing either that day or the next day, and you really can't go work on the field. You don't have the equipment there. You don't have
It's not our field to work on.
Right.
So we don't really work on the field ever. They have people that do that are great people that do that. But
Sure.
but
they're understaffed too.
Yeah, they're understaffed. I mean, just the way the world is today a little bit, they're understaffed. And so those guys are going out there and working as hard as they can to get it ready, but those fields just don't drain as well,
No.
And so, when you get the rain that we had this year, it was crazy. It was like 3 or 4 days. We'd go practice in the parking lot. There were some days
Well, we did we called it the black astroturf.
There you go.
That's what we always called it at Crespi when were forced to do that. Also,
Right,
they
right.
closed Balboa to us or something.
Yeah.
Well, I asked John Prom for a couple of quotes back when we did a story 8 months ago, and one of the things he said then was, "It's still too soon for us to offer solutions. We are working to gather more information." Well, now we're what 8, 9, 10 months away since then, and have they get my question is what is But he also said this. I'm not aware of any timelines. I have not been given a timeline. So my experience with schools is something comes up and there's a hubbub about it, and they figure out if we wait it out, the hubbub will go away. Those people will move on eventually, and then people will forget about it.
Right.
And I'm scared this is going to happen with this situation too, because it's just not right. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the girls.
Right.
And I'm not talking out, as a baseball coach, I understand. And I've been, I couldn't deal with what you deal with.
Right. I get a lot of support actually from all the Burroughs coaches. We have, if you look at Burroughs High School and the women's coaches that we have longtime coaches. You got Vicky, all of us, Vicky, Edwin Real, John Peebles, all these people that have been there for so long, and they all support us, and they're all in our corner. But right now, there's only so much they can do, but I think we just want to see progress.
Well, that's
I
it.
think that's the thing. Like, what are we doing?
Okay, have they come to you since 8, 10 months since that meeting and said, okay, this is where we are right now. This is what we're instead of saying, oh, here's a fence, now go away, or here
everything that's been improved or every which we appreciate has been to Olive in our experience at Olive. But as far as what you're talking about and being updated on what's going on from our meeting back in August, the Title IX meeting, no, we haven't heard. I don't know anything that's. I'm anticipating another meeting this August because usually, when the school year starts, that's when you have all these meetings and you talk with people, and so I'm anticipating something coming up. But I don't know. I don't know what. I know what the solution is. It's to build a new field.
and
I just don't know how.
I think Burbank High has the room already. They have that one area between the football field and the gym where it's just dead area sitting out there.
Right.
And they said, I've been told they can't go grab. Well, then put down AstroTurf.
Right.
Use it on your football field. Use it on a softball field too. It's not. But they at least have the area. But yet nothing's going on there either, is it?
Well, the number one softball program in the country, Oaks Christian, who's won 2 straight state titles at the Division I level, their entire field is turf.
So is their baseball field.
There you go.
Their infield, even home plate's made out of turf.
Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. It takes creativity, and it just takes and I consider myself a champion for women and sports in the city and for the young girls and that are coming up. And so, that's why I just keep fighting for them, is because I think that we need to fight for the young girls that are coming up. And The
Sure.
world is a different place this year. I mean, not this year, but now. And so safety is the number one, or should be the number one priority. And so I know our principal, Kenny, is figuring it out. They're trying to figure it out. But at the end of the day, whatever we figure out, it's really, like you said, a Band-Aid, because the real solution is keeping the kids on campus. How you go about that, that's out of my pay grade. That's not my thing. I just know what should happen. I just don't know how to get there.
But if we don't keep this on the fire,
Correct.
like I say, it'll go away after a time. Those parents will graduate and they won't care about it anymore. Well, that's the people have been there long term, like you,
Right.
and you have a son and a daughter.
Right.
Your daughter was very successful in basketball and softball, got a scholarship. Your son they actually played for me.
Right.
Once again, very, very, very talented, and got a scholarship to Cal State Northridge as a pitcher. I mean, that's big time stuff.
Well, I give you a timeline. I have two granddaughters, 1 7 and 1 4. They're both already playing t-ball.
Really?
Oh yeah,
And being recruited probably, right?
oh, they're loving it.
By
So,
us.
and they're eventually going to be Burroughs. They're going to go to Luther and then Burroughs. So you got a couple of years to get it figured out.
There we go. At the end of the day, I know there's people in this district that care. I know they do. And this is literally, I think, one of the toughest and most complicated situations that we have to deal with right now. Honestly, it's when it comes to sports. This is probably, to me, number one that needs to be figured out. So people need to put it as the number one thing. They can't put it behind everything, because God forbid something was ever to happen, tragic, because we're not, keeping the safety and keeping our kids on campus, then it's really going to become an issue. And so that's why I keep pushing this. I want to really reiterate, okay, how there's been a lot of movement in the last 6 months from everybody in Burbank Unified, and Park and Rec is awesome. They're a partner of ours. They've been great. But, okay, and this isn't a complaint. This is just reality. We need to figure this out. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it does need to be figured out to be in compliance with Title IX. And people know this, and people that pretend or say they care about equality and equity, which is a really big thing in our district right now, they know that we're out of compliance. And so I really think that if we just saw movement, just saw progress, heard what are we doing to fix this problem, I think that would go a long way into helping us.
Has anybody thought about calling the ACLU and get them involved? Because they get involved with the Burroughs vocal program years ago and changed how fundraising was done and who could do what and everything else. I mean, that was a huge thing.
Right.
But has the ACLU got involved in this at
I
all?
don't think so. Not with me. I'm a softball coach, so I focus on the softball. But I'm not an activist or anything like that. But yeah. So that's not my thing. That's not what I do, and I don't want to get involved in that. That's really not my thing. I'll push how I.
But
can push.
maybe that's the solution is get somebody like them involved to have lawyers and to have solutions and say, hey, let's get a timetable and you will get this done.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's for other people to figure out, and hopefully they do. And yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Interesting. It's definitely a hot topic, especially with everything else going on these days,
Right.
with equity and so forth. A new principal at Burroughs. Kenny knows that school real well, but he's got his hands full with a lot of things.
Right.
But I did hear at the district meeting that they're looking to get all the kids, keep them on campus, because I've sat at that intersection of Parrish and Clark, and you get a couple hundred kids moving back and forth.
Oh, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And again, safety wise, somebody could walk,
Right.
mill in with them, and you never know. So I know I did hear district wide, he's working at taking those classes, moving them onto campus into empty classrooms. And what happens to those?
I was told that that's already being done.
Yeah, that's
And
what
that
he
should
kind
be
of.
done by the first day of school.
Yep.
Is that they're going to use those other things like we've already got a team room. They're giving us one of the bungalows as a team room, so we can meet with our players and have meetings and stuff like that. So that was great. Kenny's going to be incredible. He's going to change the face of Burroughs. He is going to literally come in there and do what's right. I really believe in him. I really
Well, we
do.
hope. He's a graduate of Burroughs.
He cares.
He really does. He a Burbank resident, and he really does care. And I've been told now that he's, he went over to Dolores Herrera and straightened out a lot of problems.
Right.
And Burroughs is as I asked him a while back, he was really waiting to go to Burroughs, and now he's there.
Well, I honestly believe he was born for that job. He was born for that job. And Kenny's going to come in. He has a daughter.
Right.
He knows what it's like to coach a daughter. And sometimes you don't know until you've been in that position of what it's like to see your son get something that your daughter doesn't. And so he is really friendly to women's sports, and he wants to make a change. And I think whoever the school board members are, and the principal and the administrators at Burroughs, and whoever the people are that get this done, to me, they're going to be heroes. They're going to be people that change the face of this city, being able to do it. And so I look forward to still working with the Burbank Unified School District and the new leadership, and with Kenny Knoop and Burbank High, quite frankly, too, because this is a team effort. I look forward to working with them and trying to get this done, because I want to be part of this. I want to be part of helping our young girls who are now the age of your
Granddaughters,
I want to help them so they can come up and they can see what it's like to be treated equally with everybody at Burroughs, not just
and
boys.
people don't understand. We always say nobody has a crystal ball. You don't know what's going to happen 5-10 years. But I know the feasibility study that has caused a big problem in the city. People don't realize that's why they're doing a feasibility. Everybody talks about Horace Mann,
Right.
but they have empty property sitting here and there. They have roofs that have to be repaired. That's what that feasibility study, that company they hired, has to look at it all and come
Right.
up with a picture and a plan. So,
And no one said it's easy. I mean, things are hard. That when people get involved in the Burbank Unified, the Board of Education, and when you become an administrator in Burbank Unified, you know that you're going to have certain challenges that are hard. But the good leaders take that challenge on, just like we teach our athletes. When you get in a tough situation, when it's an 0-2 count and the bases are loaded and the league title's on the line, that's hard. So you got to figure it out, right?
Tell yourself you want to be there, and you were born for that moment.
There you go. And so I'm looking to work with these people, not be against them, and work with them and try and figure out a solution so that this isn't an issue in 10 years. Is it going to be easy? No, it's going to be hard. Is it going to be expensive? Yeah, it's probably going to cost a lot of money. But I just got to believe there's a way if there's a will. That's my belief. And I'm going to keep fighting for that until it happens. I'm not trying to call anyone out. I'm not trying to, but we need to be realistic too. At the same thing, that this needs to be changed.
well, great podcast today, Doug. And I would love to get a feedback, come back, and because, we have quite a few followers, and they want to know what's going on in their community too. They moved here for a reason. A lot of new kids in this community, and I think we need to do a follow-up when you hear something, that we do another podcast. And if people have questions that are listening to us, I know they can get a hold of you. They can send us emails and we can forward them off. And I just think get the community involved.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I appreciate you guys bringing this to light. There might be some people that want it not to be in the light.
Well, yeah.
But if you don't shine the light on it, it's not going to be fixed. And so we need to.
I do news for, and that's my Burbank. We're news, but I'm a sports guy.
Yeah.
And I've been there, done that, and so, I get all that. So, I think your need to keep it on the fire. We'll come back. I think we should come back in, February before the season starts and revisit this and say, okay, what's happened in the last, 8-9 months now? What are the next steps that have been taken and we keep on them.
Right.
You may never see this in your coaching career, come to fruition.
Right.
But somebody's got to keep the foot on the pedal. And that's what's got to be done. And, we're glad to help you, keep bringing it to light. My advice, when Kenny Knoop was my assistant principal at Burroughs, things didn't go so well. And so I'll leave you to your opinion with him. But we will see what they've got to have some kind of money. Now, I know they want to do another parcel tax.
Right.
They keep saying parcel tax, although the last two have not failed. I think if it's marketed right, and I think if they say, look, if we do a parcel tax and here's a list of 10 things that we're going to do with this parcel tax money, I think it has a better chance of going because it only lost by a couple percentage points. It has to pass by 60%.
You need to have the right person pushing it.
And the right message,
Correct.
you know, and people, okay, we're going to wait. And all of a sudden they're seeing people get raises and they're seeing this and that. They're going, oh, that's what I voted for, to give these people raises.
Right.
No, I mean, if they had like a list of 10, 20 things and said, we are going to fund the following items only with this money, I think the city would get behind them and say, yeah, we those things make our schools great. And we got to get our schools great again.
I agree with you. I think you're onto it, Craig, that it needs to be a targeted response as to where that money's going to go. And because I know that almost everybody in the city, you would think, you guys have been here as long as me. You know, one of the proudest things that we have is our school district. I've taught in the district since, for 20 years. And people move in here. People love the Burbank Unified School District, and they come in here for this. So people will get behind it if they know what's happening with their money, where it's going, and the benefits of it. The problem is I just think that message maybe wasn't clearly put out there.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing, people talk in the community that have recently moved here. They've done their homework. There's a lot of things why you want to move to Burbank,
right?
Besides the nice palm trees and the fancy trash cans, but our police department, our streets, our city services, all those things. And again, everybody always says our schools. It's always in that equation.
Yeah, it's always there. Yep. And the you're right. The police, the fire. I mean, the running joke. You guys know this by people that live in other cities, just over a mile away, is that you call a police officer in another city that's affiliated with LA, you might see him in an hour or two. You have a problem in Burbank, you're seeing him in lightning quick. And so, this community is incredible. I love it. That's why I haven't left. I love it here. It's not perfect, but there's things we need to work on. But
you built your own home here too.
Built my own home. I raised my family here. My family's living here now. And so I love this town as much as anybody. And I know you guys do too. And so I just think shining the light on all these things is good. It's a good thing. Just like other things in society, you shine a light on them and you get change. And so that's all we're looking to. And it'll only make us stronger in the end. And so I want it, like I said before, I really want to stress, I want it to be a partnership, and I want to work with all these people because I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
I'll tell you what we'll do is we will schedule another podcast for, let's say, February or something. And I will also reach out to the school district and see if somebody from the district wants to come in and join our conversation too. They should have a say-so of what's going on behind the scenes, that, things that we don't know. And we're assuming one way or another, but assuming is always bad. So I think we should invite them also onto the podcast and say, hey, what's going on? And by then it's going to be a year and a half into the process.
Right. And
something should have happened in a year and a half.
Right. No, I'd love to. I'd sit in on that. These are people I know, people I work with every day. I'm a teacher in Burbank Unified. So, these are people I'd love to have the conversation. Sometimes you have to have tough conversations.
I agree. Ross, anything else?
No, it's very interesting. I'm glad you came in today, Doug. And like I said, I have a couple of granddaughters that are getting involved in, and my son stayed in Burbank for a reason.
Right.
Quite a few of his fellow workers are buying houses in Burbank, are younger people, owning houses in Burbank, and got to figure it out.
Oh, well, hopefully you live in the Burroughs district and you can get them over to Burroughs.
Oh, that
Burroughs
they do.
softball. Beautiful.
That they do.
They do. Okay, well, I think that's it for our edition of My Burbank Talks Issues. Doug, thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. We will talk to everybody next time.
My Burbank Talks would like to thank all of My Burbank's advertisers for their continued support. Burbank Water and Power, Cusimano Real Estate Group, Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, Burbank Chamber of Commerce, UME Credit Union, Tequila's Cantina and Grill, UCLA Health, Gain Credit Union, Community Chevrolet, Media City Credit Union, Eric Garcia of Farmers Insurance, Providence High School, UPS Store on 3rd Street, and Hill Street Cafe.